What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Easy Paradox, and we're here going to talk about college football playoff predictions. We're going to go over each undefeated team's schedule and determine on their chances and likelihood of finishing out undefeated or if they're going to lose a couple games. I did put Vegas's prediction, the plus 250 of Georgia making it to the national title game. I have put that in every game that has availability. So some of the teams might not necessarily have a number, but we'll see. It's all the undefeated teams of the FBS. So this will include some of those other lower tier schools such as Air Force, Liberty, or even James Madison to determine who has the best opportunity. We'll also go over the conference championship game, so we'll see who's going to be in the conference championship, and we'll have those head-to-head. We'll determine on who wins, and then we'll even have the top 6 teams and then the first 2 out. Well, without further ado, we're going to get right into it. First, we have Georgia. They're number 1 in the league. They're 7-0 right now, and they have 5 more opponents. Pretty stacked schedule for the most part when it comes to ranked play. Georgia has been really lackluster when it came to the non-ranked opponents. A very easy schedule. So first up, they got Florida this weekend. Then they got Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Georgia Tech. Missouri and Ole Miss and Tennessee are the only ranked opponents. All of them are not in the top. None of them are in the top 10. But I will say that I do think they're going to lose to one of these games, and that one game is going to be Missouri because I think Missouri has a very explosive offense. I know their defense is very lackluster when it comes in comparison to other teams, but I think they can hold their own. They went toe-to-toe with LSU, barely lost, and they're just dominating teams left and right. I wouldn't say Tennessee. I have Tennessee not being ranked by the time they play each other, and Ole Miss still hasn't proven anything, so I still think that Missouri is going to be the number 1 team that Georgia has to play in comparison to the rest of their schedule to really get over that hump of they haven't played anybody, blah, 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 because Missouri is that team. Georgia's going to be 11-1, and they're going to lose to Missouri, but they will beat all the other teams. They're not going to go to the conference championship game. They'll have 1 loss under their belt. Missouri will be going to the conference championship game because they will have the tiebreaker. They'll both be 11-1, and Missouri will go, but Georgia will sit out this year just because I don't think that they're that good. The next game we got going on here is Michigan, number 2 in the country, 7-0. They have a plus 300 according to Vegas. Michigan State first up on the chopping block, then Purdue, and then it comes into rough territory. They have Penn State, then they have Maryland, and then they're not necessarily a bad team, but Maryland has shown some sparks, so it might not even be that easy of a game. And then they have Ohio State to close out the season. Michigan's one of those teams where I think they're going to lose one of the games to Penn State or Ohio State just because Michigan is in the same boat. They haven't really played anybody. They've been blowing teams out of the water, bad teams out of the water, and I think Penn State or Ohio State's going to be the one to give them that loss. And for my prediction, I think it's going to be Penn State. I think Penn State's going to give them their first loss. Michigan's still not out of the woods yet because Penn State still has to play Ohio State this weekend, and if Penn State were to lose, then Michigan could potentially win the tiebreaker depending on the rest of the schedule. My prediction is that Michigan's going to go 11-1. They're going to lose to Penn State, and then they're going to beat Ohio State. They're going to beat everyone else, but they're going to lose to Penn State. It's going to be a very tough game. Penn State has a very elite defense, tremendous offensive game, huge running back, good passing. I think that Michigan's going to have a rude awakening and have an eye-opening when they lose to Penn State that weekend. The next game, we have number 3, Ohio State. They're 6-0 right now, sitting pretty. They're plus 900 going to the national title game. We're going to start getting these numbers really, really high. They also have that 1-1, which is Penn State and Michigan, but they play Penn State a lot earlier. They got Penn State. Penn State's fresh, ready to go, and I think Penn State is going to win this game. And I think Ohio State's also going to lose to Michigan. They have a good quarterback, but he's very inexperienced, and I think that next year is going to be Ohio State's year to play. But this year, I think they're going to go X2. They're going to beat all the other teams because Rutgers, Michigan State, Minnesota, Wisconsin, they're not good. They're not good no matter where. If they're home, away. I still think that Ohio State's going to go 10-2. They're going to lose those 2 ranked games. I know a lot of other YouTubers are talking about the 1-1, the chances, blah, 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 blah. But I don't think Ohio State's going to do it. I think Penn State's going to upset Ohio State this weekend, and they're going to lose to Michigan at the end of the year because Michigan is showing that they're a lot better. Coach Harbaugh has proven that he can beat Ohio State, and Ohio State has been struggling against Michigan in the last couple years, and Michigan just has a better team this year. Moving on to the next game, we have Florida State, also number 4 in the nation. They're 6-0, sitting pretty. I know they have a lot of close games lately. Vegas has them at plus 850. Not a believer in the Florida State dream, but I do see their schedule, and it's not very good. They have Duke. That's their hardest opponent. Miami used to be ranked. Pittsburgh, I guess, has upset potential. And then Florida used to be ranked. But none of them are ranked now. And I don't think any of them are going to be ranked again. Florida's on the chopping block. They're kind of like in that like bottom row when you ever think about it. But I still think Florida's going to lose more games. So Duke is going to be the deciding factor if Florida State will go. I have Florida State winning all their games. I have them beating Duke. I have them winning out. I would love to see Duke beat Florida State because I really like upsets. I really like change. But my brain is saying that Florida State's going to win out. They're going to be 12-0 by the end of the season. They're going to go to their national title game. And they play an FCS school at the second to last game. I don't know what it is about these Southern teams. They just love throwing in that FCS school right there at the bottom there, South Alabama. But I still think Florida State's going to go 12-0 this season. Next, we have some bonus content. We have the Iowa Hawkeyes. I know I said we're going to only do the undefeateds, but this is Iowa Nation here on this channel. So we're going to talk about Iowa Hawkeyes. They just had that beautiful win against Wisconsin, and now they're sitting pretty 6-1, and the rest of their schedule is looking pretty mid, and it's not looking really good. This schedule is a dream come true for Iowa if they want to see that Big Ten title game and even a chance to go to the national title at one loss. So I have Iowa winning all of their games for the remainder of the year. It's not going to be pretty wins, but it's still going to be wins nonetheless. They're going to be 11-1 going to the Big Ten title game against Penn State, and it's going to be awesome. And I think Iowa has a real opportunity here to get a rematch against Penn State. And if Penn State somehow doesn't win, they could play against Ohio State or Michigan, and I think Iowa has an opportunity. The next undefeated here, back to the undefeated. That was the only one-loss team we're going to do, and that's just because I love Iowa and I still think they have a chance. Oklahoma sitting 6-0. Vegas has them at 1,500. That's not a very high number. They're thinking that the ACC is a better conference than the Big 12, but Oklahoma has a very easy schedule. None of their opponents are ranked. Kansas used to be ranked, so I guess that could have been a good win for them if Kansas stayed ranked, but Kansas is like one of those teams where they just lose to bad teams and beat good teams. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Oklahoma State has some votes as well. I don't think Oklahoma State's going to be ranked by the time they play Oklahoma, and none of these other teams are going to be ranked. I think Oklahoma's going to go 12-0, and I think they're going to win out and go right into that Big 12 title game against Texas for the rematch to show that they could still beat high-caliber teams. But I still don't think that's justification for putting them over an ACC team because the ACC has tons of ranked teams, ranked talent in and out of the polling. Oklahoma doesn't play any of those teams. They play Kansas, but Kansas is not a high-caliber team. If Oklahoma stays undefeated, though, and one of those teams, one of those conference title games, they show up with the X1, I still think that Oklahoma has a chance. The next 6-0 team here is Penn State, the Nittany Lions, sitting at 1,300 from Vegas, and they have two ranked opponents, and it's pretty much the similar schedule to Michigan and Ohio State, where they have the two powerhouses and then a bunch of bye weeks. So I think Ohio State is going to lose this week against the Nittany Lions, and then when Michigan comes to town, and they're going to lose too. So I have Penn State going 12-0. They're going to win out. It's going to be a great season. This is the Nittany Lions season. I know the last couple years we've been talking about Ohio State, Michigan. They're going to go to the national title game. They're going to win. But this is Penn State's time to shine. They're going to go to the Big Ten title game instead of these two, and they're going to try to prove that they are a good team this year. The undefeated team we have is Washington, sitting pretty at 6-0. They're a plus 950, so a little bit better than Penn State. And their schedule is looking hard. Would have 4 ranked opponents here at the end of the season, but Washington State decided to stop playing football this year. So now they only have 3. Washington State is still a good win. If Washington State were to win out, I think Washington State has a potential of being ranked again. But as of right now, they're not ranked. So their biggest opponents will be USC, Utah, and Oregon, all sitting around that middle average. And Oregon State's looking for a national title run. So I would say that's going to be one of their harder games. USC doesn't have any defense, and by the time this week comes around, I doubt that their defense is going to be fixed in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And Utah is still yet to be proven. So we'll see this weekend if Utah is still going to be ranked by the time they play Washington. But as of right now, Washington probably has the toughest schedule of the group with 3 ranked opponents, potentially 4 if you count Washington State, because Washington State is getting votes. Washington's going to have 12-0 record. They're going to go back to that Pac-12 championship game against Oregon because I think Oregon's going to win out. The next undefeated sitting at plus 6,000 from Vegas is UNC, sitting 6-0. The rest of their schedule is not hard. Like, I don't see how they would be rated so low, but I guess they're going to be playing Florida State in the ACC championship game. And UNC has a tough road ahead. They have Duke, they have Clemson, and then they have the final game against NC State. NC State's a little iffy when it comes to their skill and consistency. Clemson has been really iffy and consistent, but Clemson almost beat Florida State earlier this year. So I think that the last 3 games is a real turning point. They have to play Duke, they have to play Clemson, they have to play NC State, and North Carolina cannot afford a loss. They do not want that tiebreaker against Louisville. Have North Carolina 12-0 going into the ACC title game. They're going to beat all of these teams. I think the Duke is going to be the turning point. I think Duke is going to be the most challenging game on the schedule. And then as you can see, they play Campbell, which is another FCS school. I don't know what's up with these Southern teams and playing these FCS schools halfway, 3/4 of the way through the season. The next undefeated team here, we have Air Force. Air Force is sitting 6-0 out in the Mountain West. I put it up in the corner for you guys just because not everyone knows what conference they play for. They don't have a plus 100 because there's absolutely zero chance that they're going to the national title game unless there's so many teams ahead of them that just keep losing. But even then, I think I would take a 1-loss team over Air Force just because Air Force doesn't play anybody. They haven't proven that they're good. But we're still going to talk about them just because they are defeated, and that would be a disservice to them and their abilities to keep a winning streak. So I think Air Force is probably going to lose at least 1 game this year, and I think that 1 game is against Boise State. That blue field gets everyone, and I think Boise is going to upset the Air Force Falcons, just barely. I think they're going to win out the rest of the season, though. They don't really play anybody. So I think Air Force is going to 11-1 this year. They're going to lose to Boise. It's going to be a historic year for them. They could go 12-0, but even if they were to go 12-0, I think the highest they would get is probably like 17th overall at most, maybe 16th if they're lucky, just because they don't play anybody. The 3 teams before Boise are some of the worst rated teams in the league. UNLV is probably in the bottom 100. Hawaii is in the bottom 130. Army isn't much better. So 11-1 is a good year for Air Force. The next 6-0 team we're going to talk about is Liberty. Liberty doesn't get much love at all. They barely get any votes from the committee to get in the top 25. They've had a tremendous year. Conference USA isn't very good. They're worse than the Mountain West and when it comes to that. And they don't really play anybody either. Their hardest opponent is probably Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky has a really good quarterback, a really good offense, and that's probably going to be the hardest game they have. I think Liberty's going to lose in Western Kentucky. But if they could prevail, I think they'll easily go 12-0 because the rest of these teams aren't very good. I know Liberty isn't a very pish-posh conference, so even if Liberty to go 12-0, I think the highest they'll ever get is probably like 23, 24 at most. The next 6-0 team we're going to talk about is James Madison University. They are first team in the top 25. They're part of the Sun Belt Conference. They do have some wins over some Power 5 conference teams. They're not very good Power 5 conference teams, but they still have a win over them. But the unfortunate about James Madison University is that they're not eligible for a bowl game this year. There is some bylaws that say they could get a bowl game if there's not enough teams eligible. But James Madison is too new to the FCS. I think they're in that 2-year grace period where they're not eligible for anything. Next, we have the conference championship games here. We have the SEC, Pac-12, ACC, Big 10, Big 12. These are the Power 5 schools. And I have Missouri and LSU in the SEC championship game. I think Alabama is going to lose at least 1 more game, and LSU is going to win out, and LSU will win this tiebreaker. And then Missouri is going to beat Georgia. We already put that on the list. And Missouri is going to win that tiebreaker at 1 loss, and they're going to play each other in the SEC title game. Next, we'll have the Pac-12. We're going to have a rematch of the season, Washington versus Oregon. It's going to be an amazing game. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Washington's going to undefeated. Oregon's going to win out. It's going to be a great time. It's unfortunate because I really wanted Oregon State to go, but Oregon State also plays both Oregon and Washington. So if Oregon State were to beat Washington and then lose to Oregon, they'll still be X2 and they'll still be this situation. If Oregon State were to win out, then they might play Washington, depending on what the other games are. But I have Washington going undefeated. Next, we have the ACC game. I remember I was talking about there was potential for Louisville to take tiebreakers, but if Florida State and UNC win out, then there's no need for the tiebreaker. There's no need for that discussion because neither of those three teams play each other at all, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense when it comes to the conferences, because especially since the conference doesn't have sides, not being able to play one another is very interesting that three teams didn't play each other at all, and these three teams are some of the better teams in the conference. Next, we have the Big Ten. Iowa is going to commandingly win the Big Ten West. Even if Iowa were to lose one more game, I still think that Iowa will win the Big Ten West with a 2-loss Big Ten record just because the Big Ten West isn't very good. Penn State's going to win out. We already put that down there as winning out. And then the Big 12, we have the rematch again, just like the Pac-12, where Oklahoma and Texas are dominating the Big 12. There's no other teams in the Big 12 that are good. There's some potential teams that be ranked, but most of them are not very good. These are the two powerhouses. It's unfortunate because these two teams are leaving to the SEC soon, and the Big 12 is just going to be a shell of what it once was because all those Group of 5 teams aren't very good this year. They've proven they haven't done anything. Also, if you guys want me to make a video about the Power 5, the Group of 5 teams and how they're doing in comparison to what they were doing before, I'm going to be glad to do that. Just make sure you comment below if you want to see that. So this is our breakdown of the top 6. By the end of the year, we have Washington number 1, Penn State number 2, Oklahoma and UNC 3 and 4. Those are the undefeated teams, and then we threw in the 5 and 6 just because they like to have that in the bracket at the playoff predictions. And I have the 1-loss Missouri because Missouri's going to win, but they're not going to be able to go because the other 4 teams are going to be undefeated. It's just going to be like that. And then Florida State, they're going to lose really close game against UNC, so they're going to be the first team out. And then 7, 8, 9, and 10, they're probably going to be a mix of like the other another Big Ten school, probably like Tennessee or Alabama or something of that caliber, maybe LSU. But there's going to be a bunch of 1-lossers that are just going to just barely miss it. Iowa Nation all the way. This could be the end of the video. Thanks for coming by and discussing this with me. If you want to talk more about more conference realignment or any playoff predictions or any wild upsets that I think are going to happen, please drop a comment. I'm always down to have a conversation in the comment section. I would love to have a conversation about sports. It's always super fun to have engaging conversations about stats and statistics and things like that, dreams and hopes. So that's going to be it for this. Please like, subscribe, and all that good jazz. See you next time. Peace.